Right, live. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing fantastic today. I'm your friendly neighborhood Cyberman, the Enderman, the host of the Tech Lounge, CTO, risk advisor from Rhino Cybersecurity. I'm here, we chill with a coffee and talk about
Cheers.
important subjects. Cheers. Sometimes important subjects, right? Wouldn't you agree, Andrew Somerton?
I think so. Absolutely. I think there's sometimes important subjects for sure.
I'm here with Andrew Samerton. He is the CEO of Rhino Cybersecurity and my co-host, Superstar. And we open up the floor for your comments, from your shout outs. And I hope everybody's doing fantastic. My microphone, I think, is it's a little weird today, but that's all good.
Sounds okay.
Happy
Sounds okay.
Friday.
Happy
Sean
Friday
Day.
to you.
Sean says, Happy Friday. I hope everybody's doing well and keeping safe. Yes, you too, Sean. I hope you're doing fantastic. Who else do we have online today?
I think people are just joining us, so no problem. I like to comment on your friendly neighborhood cybersecurity guy. It goes kind of nicely with your T-shirt you're wearing. I think you should bring that to our audience's attention.
Yes.
Crazy
All right.
kitties on crazy kitties on a T-shirt.
We have Tamara. She says, Hi, guys. Happy
Hey, Tamara.
Friday. Hi, everybody. My compressor on this microphone is just going crazy.
Hey,
All
Nick. How are you?
right, Nick is
Nice
here
to see you.
too. All right. So we have a really, really good show for you today. We're going to talk about a few of the scandals that have been going on. The whistleblowing major scandal at Twitter this week with Peter, is that how you pronounce his name? Peter
Sure.
Zatko, right? So let's get right into it. But before we talk about Peter and what happened at Twitter and what's going on in the world in terms of data security and all of that stuff, I got some really bad stuff and like controversial. We're gonna go through to this rabbit hole, Andrew, today in terms of data privacy and how major companies, are kind of abusing people's data. And then so, all right, so it's gonna be a
Well,
good.
it's fairly new too, right? The whole whistleblowing, because cybersecurity whistleblowing is kind of, there's a lot of it out there. It affects so many people and so many organizations. So it's a really good rabbit hole to go down and understand it, because it's evolving like cybersecurity and like technology. The whistleblowing aspect is also evolving. Good morning, happy Friday, Shengiz.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so it's going to be really good. It's going to be It's going to be informative, fun.
yeah, right. Okay, so let me just power up my machine here, and I'm going to share something with you right now, and just so we can get the ball rolling on this. Can you see my screen?
No, yeah, no, I can't. I'm joking.
Yes, you can. Okay. All right. So this here is called Little Snitch. Okay, and this is a software that I installed on my Mac, and there's one for, I forget the name, for Windows as well. And what it does is basically it tells me all the applications that are running on my machine and all the connections that I'm doing right now as we speak to different parts of the world. So you can see that Europe is being connected, as well as some unknown locations. Look at this.
Oh,
We got
wow.
unknown locations somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic, and then we have other local networks in there. I have like a few, probably 8 or 9 connections that are going on right now. And the nice thing about Little Snitch is that I can control who I send my data to, right? So as a techie guy, I like to control my privacy and my data and the stuff that I'm broadcasting all over the world, right? So I can just switch them on and off, and that's it. They don't send that information. And this is very typical for every computer. So if you have a computer, if you have a mobile phone, or any device that has access to the internet, is constantly sending data everywhere in the world. Okay, let's start up with that. Okay,
I,
you
I,
don't
I
even
love the
know.
I love the fact that our show is global, though. That's kind of cool.
Yes, yeah. So people in Europe are actually contacting us. I see that.
Absolutely, I love it.
Yeah. We got people from Australia as well, I guess, connecting to us. Hopefully, it's through the show, and not a malware piece that I have in my computer, right? So,
Yeah, that would that would be bad.
all right, let's get on with the show. So, Twitter whistleblower testimony spurs call for tech regulators, and this hit the news in a big way, man. I don't know if you've seen the news on this, Andrew.
Yeah,
And let me talk about the underlying problem, right? Let's talk about Twitter itself. So Twitter's protections of user sensitive data is so lax that just about anyone can with an account has reason to fear for the security of their accounts, even senators. And this is what Peter is talking about.
Accounts too.
Not far-fetched to say that an employee inside the company could take over the accounts of all of the senators in this room. Given the real harm to users and national security, I determined it was necessary to take on the personal and professional risk to myself and to my family of becoming a whistleblower. I did not make my whistleblower disclosures out of spite or to harm Twitter. Far from that, I continue to believe in the mission of the company and root for its success. But that success can only happen if the privacy and security of Twitter's users and the public are protected. In accepting an executive position at Twitter, I made a personal commitment to Mr. Dorsey, the board, the greater public, and myself that I would drive the changes needed at Twitter to protect the users, the platform, and democracy. That's what I'm continuing to do here today.
All right, so that's his testimony. What do you think about this? First reactions, everybody, please put them on the chat if you have any reactions to this video and what's going on with Twitter right now. Andrew, what do you think?
You know what? It's his tone speaks volumes, right? I mean, he basically puts himself out there. I mean, the gentleman has a resume like you can't understand. I mean, the awards he's won for cybersecurity, the advancement, the company he's worked for. So it's not like he's doing this out of spite. He's literally doing this to better Twitter, better our experience, better our security. And then if you saw his emotion, like when he talks about his family, like it took a lot for him to make that decision to go against the company and let them know that you guys are doing something wrong. And I'm sure he had internal conversations way before he became a whistleblower. The things needed to be fixed,
yes.
Right? And then now all of a sudden he did it. And it's got to be hard. It's got to be hard.
Man, I have a show for you. We're going to go into this rabbit hole of data security. I am assuring you that you're going to enjoy this, what I'm about to show you. So we got some comments from Sean. He says, good for him. It takes guts to do what he did. Kudos. Absolutely.
100%.
100%. Who else do we have in there commenting? Let's see. It's hard to keep the borderline between paranoia and prudence. Don't you think so? Yeah, that's a good comment. Paranoia and prudence. But I think the underlying problem is that people either don't give a crap of what's going on, or the media is maintaining this so quiet and it's just hashes it out so good that nobody is informed, right? So, and I'm going to give you a few examples of this. I mean, I don't want to be as controversial, but it's not a good thing, right? So let's talk about the data breaches in terms of what's going on in the world. Okay, so let me show you this. Data breaches break record in 2021, right? So this came out in January of 2022. Basically, what it says is that according to the identified theft resource centers 2021 data breach report, there were 1,862 data breaches last year. This is an increase of 68% from the year before. 68%. So you can see this, it rose by 68% from the previous year. And so something is going amiss in here, Andrew. Something is going amiss. There is a lot of data breaches, and just because there's no essential practices of good cybersecurity in companies, they're not protecting the data the way they should. And
well, and I think to that point, Dan, I think that's where the cybersecurity whistleblowing becomes a factor, because there are so many companies out there that aren't doing what they're obliged to do to protect their data, to protect the privacy, to protect their clients. And so, in good conscience, these people who have this knowledge hopefully are bringing it to the company first, and then are addressing it and fixing it as quickly as possible, or adapting to what they're regimented based on what their rules and regulations are for their organization, their industry. But if not, then people need to know about it, and in good conscience they need to. It's got to be a moral dilemma, like this gentleman at Twitter. where it's like, am I going to jeopardize my job, my family's future? Am I basically becoming a whistleblower, and how is that going to affect me? Where can I go to protect myself if I bring this to light? And it is a huge rabbit hole. And I feel bad for those people, but we need to be brought to our attention, these problems, and these companies need to identify them and fix them.
Absolutely, 100%. And you know what? The problem is that I find is that the laws and regulations are so lax that anybody can do anything nowadays in terms of data privacy. I mean, they're getting better here in Canada, and I'm going to show you one of the bills that was incorporated in June 2022 that talks about that and how it's going to help Canadians as well. But let's go to everybody knows Edward Snowden, right? He talks about the Pegasus spyware. So now the Pegasus, the Pegasus. This is the guy that did the WikiLeaks, right? Like back in I think 5 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, they made a movie about him too, right?
They did make a movie about him, and the main thing is that he whistle blew on what was going on with the government, right? Like the U.S. government, huge. He was in hiding in Europe for a number of years.
Russia. He was in Russia.
He's in Russia now.
That's where he was. He was stuck in Russia forever. I don't know where. And I apologize. I don't know where he is at this stage.
Yeah. So this is the Pegasus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Spyware, and this is a 100% legal. So what's going on in here is that NSO Group is a group from Israel, right? And they manufacture and sell to government advanced spyware, which is branded Pegasus, that can secretly infect a mobile phone and harvest all the information, like data, photos, videos, all can be extracted secretly. And it is 100% legal, right? And how does the public not know about this kind of stuff? That's what I wonder. Nuts. Let's watch this. Hopefully this is just in the States and not in Canada. The NSA, man. Oh God. Okay, let's see.
So, Ed, could you just give us your initial reaction to the findings of the Pegasus project?
This is everywhere. This is an industry that should not exist. We're seeing what the NSO Group, which is sort of the most famous of these guys, is up to. But the NSO Group is only one company of many. And if one company smells this bad, what's happening with all the others? I mean, when I look at this, what the Pegasus project has revealed is a sector where their only product are infection vectors, right? They don't, they're not security products. They're not providing any kind of protection, any kind of prophylactic. They don't make vaccines. The only thing they sell is the virus. And I think saying that they only sell this to government doesn't make that better when you look at who the targets are that have just been revealed.
Okay, so what do you think about that? I turned off my compressor here. My mic was giving me some problems with my compressor, but I hope it sounds much better right now. And what do you think, guys? If you're out there, please put your comments on our chat, and then give us some of your opinion. What do you think about Pegasus and this virus that is actually 100% legal?
Yeah, it's crazy. Shengiz has a really good comment, and it's so true. Like, whistleblowing is a big issue in all areas, not specifically for cybersecurity. Engineering is one of the areas we need whistleblowing, and I think, and that's a really valid point, Shengiz, especially like with engineering. Again, there's some fundamental things that need to be addressed or brought forth, because the ramifications of hiding something or deceiving something, or an organization or product or a service or a deliverable is unbelievable. It can be catastrophic, life-threatening. With cybersecurity, obviously it's such a hot topic right now, and it's starting to become more in the forefront with these famous acts, especially with what's happening with Twitter, etc. But it's so true. I mean, you're right, and I think it needs to be brought to the forefront. I think it's a scare factor where a lot of people, they want to protect themselves. And it's not necessarily a selfish act. It's a protection act, and I don't necessarily agree with it or disagree with it. But I can understand why somebody may not come forward. But we urge people: you need to come forward. We need to have those whistleblowers out there in good conscience to advance and to protect the greater good, the greater, obviously the cybersecurity landscape, the engineering landscape, things that we're doing out there. Because without that, so many things can be hidden, and then
Absolutely,
what
100%.
happens? Bad things.
In every, I mean, we see this big characters and big people that like they're very well known that are doing whistleblowing, and it is tragic because you're losing your livelihood, you're losing your money, you don't have a job, and if it's a big a big deal and it hits the news, then good luck trying to get a job somewhere in another company, unless you're in cybersecurity. So the funny thing is, like, I was listening to this podcast the other day, and I don't remember who it was. When you're in cybersecurity, and let's say you're a CISO, or you are, like a chief information officer, a CIO, when let's say there's a breach, right, in the company, and then it gets ransomware or something happens, data leak or whatever, and then they move out of the company. Actually, they're actually sought after because they have that experience with the other company that everything got hacked, so they know that they're going to hire somebody that with real life hacking, like being in that position, so
Skill.
the value actually goes up and not down. But in other let's say industries like engineering, for example, let's say you're building a bridge, and you're very important, and then you whistleblow, or something happens, like let's say a bridge collapses, whatever, and it's, like you are the one who is to blame for that, then you don't get a job anywhere else, right? So in cybersecurity, we are kind of shielded from the fact that if there is a hack, you have the opportunity to learn, right? So it's a bit different.
Yeah,
It's how things work.
and there is. I mean, obviously. So just so you guys know, and this is the U.S. based, but there isn't really a whole bunch of laws in place right now for whistleblowers in
Ah,
the States. But what they're doing is there's some organizations out there like SEC and things like that. You guys can do your own research beforehand that do protect you. So don't feel you're not protected if
yes,
if you are a whistleblower, because the reality of there is. And what they do is they are cherry picking from other laws and regulations to make sure that you can be protected. And so
yes,
you're not out there on an island by yourself if you feel like, we encourage, somebody who is, if it's a legit whistleblowing, you've done all the right things first, and it's going to be brought to the
100%.
forefront. Absolutely do it. There are
Yep.
resources out there to protect you. There's no question.
Yes. Yes. So Sean says the world needs to get to the point where people who are in the know and do not whistleblow are chastised. Absolutely, 100%. And that's
Chastised are charged. I mean, in all fairness, if you know information that is detrimental to society, like for example, Dan, to the point of a bridge that was built wrong, or a cybersecurity that could breach, millions of data, or privacy information, or identity option, you should be charged for that if you can be proven that you knew that and you didn't share that
yes.
information. It's
Yeah.
not right. Absolutely wrong. It's criminal.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Let me show you something else. Okay, and this I picked up this from PC Mag, in about social media itself, and how social media basically, and not just social media, but every single app, how they collect information from people, right? So about Facebook is number one. 86% of your personal data is collected by Facebook. And I'm talking about not just purchases and location and contact info. I'm talking about health information and financial data, sensitive information, like all kinds of stuff they're collecting from you. Instagram is number two, which is a meta product also, right? So number one, number two are Facebook, right? And then you have like Uber, eBay, Just Eat, LinkedIn, and all the other ones that are collecting your data. And you can see here how they, 36%, 29%, they all collect your information. So this is a little worrisome that we don't have the laws. The laws are really laxed, in but these companies are allowed to do whatever they want with our data, right? So this is where and that's why Twitter or Zatko came out and said, you know what, there are huge problems at Twitter. What are we going to do about it? He's trying really to make a change in the world by getting Congress and getting the government and the states to do something about this big data giants that have free range on whatever they want to do, right?
For sure. Yeah, Gladstone, can you do me absolutely, Dan? Can you do me a favor? Just put up Shangiz's comments. I think it's important. Shane Giz, lack of
Yes.
okay, go ahead, Dan. Go ahead and read it.
Oh no, you read it. Read it.
I was going to say,
Please.
Shane Giz basically brought to the attention, and it's so true. Lack of protection of whistleblowers is a big showstopper, and I hope he's talking about not our show, but the actual showstopper of them stopping whistleblowing. The reality of it, I agree with Shane Giz. I think the reality is people's livelihoods, their families' livelihoods. You know what they've accomplished in their work is why they hesitate to blow the whistle, because they're going to be, you know, basically just, you know, either potentially fired, downgraded, put on temporary leave, what have you. And in all fairness, we need to make sure that, you know, as long as those whistleblowers are doing a greater good and the information they're providing either to the government or the organization, what have you, is legit. Absolutely. And it's not being it's not malicious, then I believe 100% we need all the protection in the world around those people. They are doing a greater good. So I agree, Shane Giz. I mean,
you know what?
Part of
the problem is that the laws and regulations are lax. So we need people to come forward and you know, like a whistleblow on things that are happening in the world, because the government is not going to do nothing.
Well, I mean, just think of the size of the world. Think of how many networks out there, how many individuals are users of the webs, how many companies are being built, how many things are being touched that are detrimental potentially. It's impossible for you to know everything. So it's important for, you know, people to have their eyes on the pulse, especially the ones that have the know. And if you have the know, you shouldn't keep things hidden. You should be sharing that. If they can't fix it, we should be making them fix it, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, let me show you something else, right? So let's go into the news, and these are all news. So Gladstone, if you can put my screen on the there you go, perfect, thanks. This is from back in 2019, and I don't know if you know this, Andrew, or if people actually knew this, but there's this company called Life Labs that was hacked, and they had a big data breach that affected 15 million patients in Canada. That's half of our population in Canada, half of the population, because of inadequate securities and policies led to this data breach, right? What happened to that company? I don't know. They're still around. You know, nothing probably just a slap in the hand, right? So the PHI is very important. That's your health information, or that's your personal health information. And you know, like they have my information, your information, Andrew, the hackers, because these guys got hacked. And this is happening more and more every year, and there are no laws saying anything about this. So people need to whistleblow, or else nothing is going to get done. That's where I'm getting at today. And I applaud Satka for doing his whistleblowing with Twitter, because hopefully that's going to spark a controversy. We're so far behind the ball that is not even crazy. Let me show you another clip, and this is the penalties. This is from the GDPR, right? So GDPR is the law in, and this is being for in 2018, 17, right? That when it was it came out. It gives it is a big movement in terms of data privacy in Europe, which we are not seeing this in North America, right? So let me just play this. These are the penalties.
With the GDPR coming into force, organizations in breach of the legislation will find the fines they face increasing dramatically. From a maximum of £500,000 that the ICO could levy, penalties will then reach an upper limit of €20 million, or 4% of annual global turnover, whichever is higher.
She says whatever is higher. She says $20 million or 4%, whichever is higher. So if your company is making a few $1 billion, 4% of that, it's a big, hefty fine for not complying, right?
I think they should almost go a little further, Dan, in some ways. I mean, a financial fine for someone who's wealthy, it can just, like as you said, you're going to put it under the rug. You pay the money, like you know what happened with the 15 million with the medical industry, and then it's like, what are they doing now? It's just kind of forgotten now because they probably paid their fine and moved on. Exactly. I think there should be a bigger spotlight put on these companies as well. Like they should have, you know, quarterly or every 6 months or yearly investigations. And you know, we talk about with our organization where we go into companies, we do vulnerability assessments, or we do penetration tests, and we you know, offer them MDR solutions, and we protect them with our SOC 24/7. These companies need to, and I know they probably have a lot of this, but is it being regimented, or is it being monitored after these breaches? I mean, you should almost hear the follow-ups on some of these companies, not just a $10 million fine, because to them it could be nothing.
Well, the companies, they get fined if they don't report it. Every company is supposed to report a data breach as part of the GDPR in Europe.
Exactly.
70, they have, I think, 72 hours to report, and that's not in cybersecurity. If you're in cybersecurity, you know that 72 hours after a breach is nothing. That's not time at all, because you're still trying to get things back together and containment in 72 hours. And they give companies 72 hours. Here in Canada and the States, it only applies to certain industries like healthcare and financial, but everybody else, you don't even have to report them, right?
It's slowly changing, for sure. It's getting worse, and worse. It's getting better. Lack of the way I was wording it. It's getting better that they need to be compliant. They need to be able to share that information, and because again, it's affecting a lot of people's individual information. Yes. I know Sheng Jing just put something up in regards to the Life Lab hack. Dan, I don't know if you want to put that up.
Put it on the. Yeah, so he says we have HIPAA law that LifeLab needed to comply with. The issue is that there is no enforcement on existing laws. Absolutely, and HIPAA, exactly HIPAA is an American, law. It doesn't apply to Canada, right? So where the Canadian laws, they're not present at all, right? So it is, it's pretty bad. So let's continue on with what she says about GDPR, right?
Non-compliance could mean insolvency or even closure. Under the GDPR, supervisory authorities will be given a number of new powers, including the power to issue warnings of non-compliance, carry out audits, require specific corrective action within specified timeframes, order erasure of data, and the complete suspension of data transfers to a third country. And these powers can be applied to controllers and processors alike. The investigative powers of the supervisory authority include the right to order you to provide any information it requires for the performance of its tasks, to carry out data protection audits, to review certifications, to notify you of any alleged infringement of the GDPR, to obtain access to all personal data and all information necessary, to obtain access to any premises of controller and processor, including data processing equipment. Supervisory authority corrective powers include the right to issue warnings that intended processing is likely to result in infringement of the GDPR, to issue reprimands where infringed provisions of the GDPR, to order you to bring processing operations into compliance with the GDPR, to order you to communicate a personal data breach.
Hey, man, the list goes on and on.
On and on, and yeah, exactly. I was like,
the main key about GDPR is that if you're infringing and something happens to you in terms of data privacy, they have you by the neck, right? They have you by the neck, and they can do anything to your company in terms of auditing, even getting your personal information from you to do auditing and all of that. And it's just, you get into this huge problem. So it's not just, I know you were saying, like this company's, the financial thing is not as big. Well, it's not just financial. The GDPR is enforced, and it's strict, man. It's very strict. So if you're a company that is dealing with Europe, from here in Canada, you better comply with the GDPR in Europe if you have clients in Europe, right? Just so you know, because or else you can get into big trouble, because it is boundaryless, right? So you can get into trouble in Europe for that as well if you are a Canadian company with business in the States. So then, what do you think about this? It's pretty stringent, right?
For sure. And again, there's it's the categories, right? I mean, some are really strict, some aren't. Some, Europe is different than the United States. United States is different than Canada. So to Catalina, her comment here, Too bad there are laws, but not ways to enforce them. And that's kind of where the whole whistleblowing
Yes.
comes into play, Catalina. I mean, great analogy. There are laws, there are rules or regulations or compliances, all these different things, basically to what, Shangiz says is what we're talking about, the examples, but it's enforcing them. And that's why whistleblowing is important. And to Shangiz's point earlier, if they don't feel like they have the support by whistleblowing, then all the laws that are enforced, and if they're going to continue to be just hidden or forgotten about or not talked about. So we need to bring that to the forefront.
Yes.
So we have to start enforcing them. So thanks.
Yeah,
for the
but
comment.
we're very lax. So, for example, the cookie and privacy law on websites. Like in Europe, as part of the GDPR, you need to show a cookie banner that says what information you want to give to the company. Every company does it. Here in Canada, it's not even required. Did you know that it's not required here by law in Canada that you put a cookie banner on your website, so you can extract as much information from the user. So, and I'm talking about location, so latitude, longitude. I'm talking about your operating system if you're running a Mac, Windows. I'm talking about the what browser you're using, and all of this information, personal data. So if you're using, for example, something like Facebook, and then you want to pixel somebody, so you put a pixel on your website, and then when somebody goes to your website, it tracks you, and you can get all the information. Here you can do it with explicit freedom as a company, because there's no law that tells you that you need to put a cookie banner and you need to get people to actually opt in or opt out. If
there's been talks about it in the last few years, but it's like the almighty dollar, right? Programmatic advertising, outreach advertising, banner advertising, retargeting advertising. It's such big business, so much money, that it kind of, when they talk about it, it's like, is it getting muffled? Is it getting put off? So it's like that cart and horse scenarios, because you got so much power being made by those cookies and that programmatic advertising, etc., that it's like, who's going to win? Who's going to win the tug of war, right?
It's crazy. So we have a couple of comments. Let's see this. Sean says, knowing and not blowing is being an accessory to the crime. Absolutely. 100%. You need to step forward, man. That's the main key. Anything else in there, Gladstone?
I think Gargo, here we go. Yeah.
Gargo 45, he says, this is such an important thing to know. You don't hear much about the specifics of how these companies collect our data in the mainstream. You know what? The main data is the new commodity. It's the new
money.
gold. It's the new gold, right? So that your data is priceless. And you might not think in terms of, okay, it's just one person, one and a few pieces of data, right? But imagine, like a few million people, all of that data. So companies extract that data and they can do whatever they want with it. They can sell it to other companies for advertising. They can hyper target you, whatever you are. So they can do so many things with that data once they have it. So that's why they are doing this, in because there is a huge commercial aspect to it, and profits. 100%. The states is not doing anything.
That's why a lot of companies, startups, and all that kind of stuff will give away things, and they don't care about making money. They care about collecting that data, because the data basically can be transferred to another organization that they can leverage, and then now that they can make money from your business. So it's all, a company can make $1 million and be worth $10 million if they have $10 million worth of data that they've collected, right? It all depends on how you're putting the data in relation to the business and how it's being operated. So data is so important.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remembered this, guys, and this is from a few years back from Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and his testimony with the senator.
Special counsel's office.
Yes.
Have you been interviewed?
I have not. I have not.
Others have.
I believe so, and I want to be careful here, because that our work with the special counsel is confidential, and I want to make sure that in an open session I'm not revealing something that's confidential.
I understand. That's why I made clear that you have been contacted, you have had subpoenas.
Actually, let me clarify that. I actually am not aware of a subpoena. I believe that there may be, but I know we're working with them.
Do you know who Palantir is?
I do.
Some people have referred to them as Stanford Analytica. Do you agree?
Senator, I have not heard that.
Okay. Do you think Palantir taught Cambridge Analytica, as press reports are saying, how to do these tactics?
Senator, I don't know.
Do you
So yeah, I don't know if you remember Cambridge Analytica and how they were involved in the I think it was the Donald Trump election and all of that, and the whole political system in the states swayed. That was huge news back in 2018. It's just exploded because of Facebook, right? So
Absolutely.
so yes, if you can have data, it's so powerful that you can sway political parties in different countries to one side or the other through hyper targeting and all of that. It happens here in Canada too, unfortunately. So it is huge. So I just wanted to show you this because this is something that is continually going on
For sure.
in our side of the fence, in our side of the globe,
Of the
right?
world, yeah. Dan, we
So
have lots of comments coming through, actually, quite a few, like 3 or 4
yes,
good ones. So maybe
all
we
right.
should
So
put those on because it's about being interactive with
Nick,
everybody. So absolutely, let's show those, Gladstone.
huge shout out to Nick. We had a really good conversation this morning, and we interacted. Very nice fellow. He
So
likes
nice to meet him.
mountain bike riding just like myself, so we got something in common there. So shout out to you, Nick. He says industry moves so much faster than public policy. By the time government catches up, companies are already moving into different and more complicated methods of collecting data, collecting and using data. Oh, 100%
So true.
artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we just
Oh,
had a show about that. Absolutely, it's crazy, right?
Jesus, man, this is crazy. I mean, I'm sorry, but look at these senators. They look like they're 80 years old, 90 years old. No offense, but they have no clue of what's going on in the world when it comes to data and technology in itself, and even artificial intelligence. There's a huge problem with artificial intelligence and data collection. Did you know that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So, any other comments?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I know Shingiz has one. Nick has another one. Here we go.
A person who has knowledge about something and does not say anything about it's like a big supermarket full of stuff and it's closed. Yeah. 100%. That's why, guys, if you are planning on if you're thinking that you should do whistleblowing in your company because something is going on, not just on the cybersecurity side, but any malpractice or things that are shady inside of company, you should do that because, as you can see, our legislators are not doing much in terms of that, right?
Well, I mean, I think it comes down to support too. I don't think you should ever be in an organization or a culture of a company that makes enhances you to be silent or to take it and not speak up. If you're not feeling confident, if you don't surround yourself, or the company isn't being surrounded and it's deceitful in any way, and you're a very honest, straightforward individual, don't be shy, don't be scared, get that support and definitely speak up because
Yes.
it's not good basically to keep things in. It's criminal in a lot of ways. So there's no question.
Absolutely. And at the end of the show, before the end of the show, I have a couple of links in here for whistleblowing, right? So you can actually visit them if you're thinking about it. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. And by the way, let me do a little promotion. We have our Purple Talk newsletter, 4 articles, cybersecurity, IT security articles on LinkedIn. So go to LinkedIn, sign up for Purple Talk right now. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website. We have also our monthly newsletter for cybersecurity awareness training for your employees. If you want to know more, if you want them to be on the know in terms of what to do to help you out in your quest to protect your company. So do those things right now. Subscribe to this channel. All right. So let me show you on the screen. So Gladstone, if you can put my screen on.
Yeah, we had another one afterwards. Bring Nick's one back up. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's quite long, but I think it looks interesting.
All right.
Go ahead. Dan.
Yeah, after this. So weak U.S. privacy law hurts America's global standing. So this article goes on. This is from Wire magazine. How the lax the lax state in the U.S. is actually hurting business, and we have the problems with TikTok. I mean, that's a man, one of the worst is TikTok. Did you know that TikTok can collect data and they get processes inside of your phone that can send TikTok any type of information you want? So this is beyond what any app should collect. So TikTok, what it does is basically, if you have it in your phone, take it out immediately because it's not a good thing. What it does is it learns of what other apps are running inside of your computer and sends that information back to TikTok. Did you know that? That is crazy, and I don't understand why nobody says anything about this. If you go into YouTube and search for TikTok snooping on people, you'll find tons of videos about TikTok and what is happening, but nobody's saying anything about this problem. And you know that TikTok, it belongs to the Chinese company, right? So same with WeChat, right? So so just so you know, so it is hurting business, right? And but then I want to go into kind of what we're doing in terms of um, um, security, which I'm very glad that this is happening. I'm going to show you what's going on as of June of 2022 in terms of privacy law in Canada. I applaud the government for doing this. Well, not just the government, but everybody that's involved in trying to make things a little better in Canada. All right, so what other questions or comments do we have?
I think I got a couple from
Glass?
Darcy, I think a couple from Nick, or I think there we go. Here's got some.
Okay, so Nick says, and there are a few people willing to take jobs investigating these companies, and when they could go and work for the same companies for a much larger paycheck, making whistleblowers a fundamental way to hold these companies accountable. Yeah, of course, give me the money, right? They go where the money is, unfortunately, not where your ethics is, right? So, and that's why we see the CISO or the CIS from Twitter basically crying because he knows that his paycheck is probably cut in half now, if not more. And this is not against Twitter, it's against big companies, right? What else do we have? We have something from Darcy Bromley. He says, agree with the comment about being open. Work for a company that wants ideas that reach each employee that wants to be changed. Absolutely, 100%. And that's what we do at Rhino Cybersecurity. Ladies and gentlemen, our doors are always open. Our employees, they always have a voice, man, and we have implemented so many, because that's what drives a company. It is its people, not so much the upper management and not the profits, man. That's I think this is what's happening, right? So any other comments before I move on?
I think those are top right now. They're great, but please continue.
Okay, perfect. So let's continue. Let me show you on the screen what we're doing in terms of in Canadian law, right? So this is called Bill C-27, right? And it was just passed, and I think in June of 2022. And what it does is basically here it is. It increases control and transparency when Canadians personal information is handled by organizations, which is perfect, right? Giving Canadians the freedom to move their information from one organization to another in a secure manner, right? Ensuring that Canadians can request that their information to be disposed of when it's no longer needed. Guys, this is huge. It means that you can reach any company in Canada and tell them to delete your records forever from those databases, and they have to comply with that. In the States, this law does not exist. Did you know that? That companies can keep people's information in their coffers as long as they want without anybody complaining. That's what happens in the States right now, right? So this also establishes stronger protections for minors, right, which is extremely important. Of course, everywhere, not just in Canada. Providing the Privacy Commissioner Canada with order-making powers over companies, right? So they can do audits, they can start doing. So this is it's becoming a bit more like the GDPR nowadays in terms of what is going on. Establishing. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it has to become, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, establishing significant fines for non-compliance, up to 5% of the global revenue or 25 million, whichever is greater. So see how they're copying the
Yeah, the
GDPR
GDPR, yeah.
to the T. I think they even increased it by 1%. I think it was the other one
Yeah.
was 4%. This one is 5%, right? And then there is a provision for artificial intelligence, which is perfect. This is perfect. This is really good. Protecting Canadians by ensuring high impact AI systems are developed and deployed in a way that identifies, assesses, and mitigates the risk of harm and bias. Right. So, establishing an AI and data commissioner to support the Ministry of Innovation, and it goes on and on, outlining clear criminal prohibitions and penalties regarding the use of data obtained by unlawful for AI development. Right. So these are huge. There's a big movement in Canada that talks about privacy and all of that. Right. So if you're outside of Canada, if you're in the States, you're kind of out of luck, right? But if you're in Canada, you're protected as a citizen. And I'm liking, I'm applauding this where we're going with the data privacy in Canada. I think it's a good movement. Now there's always a say and a do, right? You know, so they might be laws, but are they going to be enforced?
Well, and that's exactly, I think that's what an earlier guest mentioned, right? I mean, it's having the laws there, but are they going to be enforced? And that's the problem. Our Gladstone also is asking basically, does this apply outside of Canada? And the thing is, every single country globally has their own rules and regulations, and they're adapting and they're getting better and they're getting stronger. But it's about enforcing them, exactly what we're just talking about. And by having them is one thing, enforcing them another, having, whistleblowers having a resource to go to if they have to help protect themselves, and that's a knowledge base as well, right? So shows like this, what's happening with Twitter, having a public forum that brings these things to people's attention so they feel like they're not alone. I mean, imagine sitting in an office where your livelihood is at stake. You have all this information and you're scared to say anything because it's going to affect you, right? If you know that you have resources to go to that has your back, that because you have a greater good at stake, then it's going to be that much better. So it's reinforcing laws, knowledge of laws, basically implementing those laws, having the ability to enforce them. And again, back to the full circle of this show, whistleblowing, having the knowledge that you have the resources to go to and protect yourself by bringing that to the forefront, it's critical.
Yes. So does that apply to companies based outside of Canada? If he's talking about removing data from the company's database outside of Canada and the States, unfortunately, they don't have that unless you are in certain states. So, for example, I know that California has a big, strong movement towards privacy for information, and you are required to delete your information from your database if you're in California, and they have other things that are pretty uploadable. They're really good. However, most of the states, there's no legislation. Changes says something about this bill. Let's see.
This is interesting.
This bill, C-27, is now a law called Working for Workers Act. Another interesting point is that the act is to remove the Canadian experience requirements for foreign trained professionals to get a practicing license in Ontario. Oh my God, that's amazing! I didn't know that. That's great. So what Changiz is saying that, and this is very unfortunate, because we see a lot of people that are very well educated in other parts of the world. They're doctors, they're nurses. 100%. We're like bleeding. We're bleeding for healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, right? So my wife is a nurse, and she gets constantly called from the hospital every day asking her if she wants to take an extra shift because they're short of staff in the hospital, right? So imagine all these people coming into Canada with really good professional degrees and education and experience, and here they're just given the cold shoulder because
they don't have the
Canadian experience or education, right? So
it's made difficult. It's not like you're a doctor somewhere and you come here, to your point, using the doctor analogy, and it's like easy for you to you pass a course or you basically prove your credentials. and then all of a sudden now you can be licensed here. It's like they literally have to jump through hoops, and it's almost more difficult if not. And again, I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't even know if you have to start from scratch. I have no idea, but it's really difficult from my understanding. I've known people who are doctors from other countries and have come here and they're no longer working in that field. Sad.
So
Very
I'm
sad.
very happy that this is happening in terms of
100%.
increasing the openness. But there's a caveat in there, by the way. The caveat is that I don't know if you've been watching the news. I every day I wake up and I watch the news. I look at the documentaries. I do all kinds of research in my spare time. And there's this thing called education and diploma scams, right? So there's a lot of countries out there, third world countries, where they fake the entire universities and they give you diplomas for like a bunch of change, like $1,500, $2,000, even up to $5,000 for a PhD, and they fake everything. Even the test. So I was watching this documentary where they would going to do a test, for example, and they give you the answers. So you can go in there and then just put your answer, your fake answer, like the answers in there. And if for a little more money, then you can have somebody do it for you, fake this stuff, and then they come to countries like ours, getting a job. So we have to look at doing a really good job at filtering the
I think that's exactly
from the bad.
That's what Darcy actually just, if Glassman, if you can throw Darcy's up there. Thanks, Darcy, for putting that up there, because I think it's important. So, because I wasn't 100% clear on that, but you have to take a course to update yourself to Canadian levels of education. So, that's great. And I think that goes hand in hand with your point, Dan. If you have a fake certificate or you have manipulated the system to get a doctorate or what have you, to Darcy's point, as long as you go to the school here and you update that to our standards or North American standards, and you can prove that you have that level, so be it. I just want to make sure that it's, I think to Shang's concern and his bill, that we can have that, we can put that in place, and that people who have a doctorate and that are really good doctors or what have you, they have the ability to become that here easily, or as easy as possible.
These are the cookie cutter laws that are going on, right? So I hate that, man. It should be customized depending on the individual, right? And it should be filtered, right? So the law does not apply to everybody the same way. Okay, you're not able to do anything in Canada. You need to take the courses and do all of this, right? But we need a better way to filter and prove that the individual says who they are too, right? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, but we can't just limit and say no, right?
Exactly.
Because then it hurts our society, it hurts our country, and you can see it everywhere, man, especially in the healthcare industry right now. So, all right. So if you want to know more about whistleblowing, hold on, let me just I think Diego has a comment. He says, I always think that it's insane how someone can steal information from a medical institution. I mean, how can even think out hacking the health of the people?
I think it's just a power play, Diego. I think it's get as much information, as much knowledge from everybody. You got to think these people that are hacking aren't ethical. They're not going, oh, I don't want to take that sick person who has cancer's information and utilize it to my benefit and hurt them. It's all about an opportunistic situation that they can benefit from. They're criminals. At the end of the day, if you're hiding information as an organization, if you're hiding information as a structure that you built, to Shang's point, with an engineer, or if you can go after a medical organization that isn't well protected, it's not about ethical. It's about just taking what I can do and leverage it to the best of my ability to make money. That's all there is to it. So it's sad, but it's true.
Yes. So what Diego is saying is fundamentally important, absolutely, because hackers don't give a crap about who you are.
Exactly.
They have no moral compass, Diego. So I just go to YouTube and put phone scams. From India, like those, like there are some really big YouTubers that they show you how they scam all people in everywhere in the world, the States, Canada, and Europe, and they lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we're talking about 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds getting scammed by these scammers. You think they're going to have a moral compass in there that's going to say, she's an old lady, I'm not going to scam her? They don't care. They will go after. We got hacked in the Waterloo region here in Canada, Ontario, Canada. Our schools were like down and they're still down. Like there's still problems with the school, my daughter's school, because the whole board was hacked by hackers. I mean, schools are like they're pretty shoestring nowadays. Imagine getting hacked and now have to deal with this kind of stuff from hackers don't care.
Yeah, for sure.
They really don't.
Hey,
Changis has a comment for
I was
Darcy.
Dan, I was gonna say exactly. I love this because the people on our show, which I love the interaction. Darcy made a comment, and then Shangian just added to it. So I love the fact that they're talking back and forth, and we're just educating you guys as our audience, which is beautiful. So Dan,
Yes.
if you maybe we'll do Darcy's first, and then Shangiz, and then back to Darcy again, because I love it. It's a side conversation.
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to pinpoint is that if you're new to Canada, okay, if you're new to Canada, talk to Changiz. He has this really good plan for helping out people from other parts of the world to get your engineering degrees and help you advance in Canada. He is a big proponent of volunteerism. He volunteers pretty much everywhere. He's a great fellow, and
his
reaching
work
out.
history is incredible.
Yeah, he's reaching out in LinkedIn to people who want to take advantage of this and free consulting and courses on and training on how to help you navigate the Canadian the Canadian career in your Canadian career in engineering. So reach out to Changiz in LinkedIn. Absolutely, Changiz. Maybe you want to put your link in there. We can throw it also in the chat. So put
So
that
what did
comment.
Darcy say? Yeah. So so this is Darcy's comment, Dan. We haven't addressed it yet. And then Shangiz comments to it, and then Darcy comments back again. So we as Canadians don't have all the answers. We need to expand our knowledge base 100%. And you know what? I don't think anybody anywhere has all the answers. To your point, Darcy, I love that. And as Canadians, sometimes, or North Americans, we take that assumptive approach that we know everything. And you're right. We need to learn and grow and work together and better our system. And then Shangiz says,
yeah, he says, Darcy, not necessarily. If you have the minimum education, had enough experience, you can get a practicing license. What matters is the competency levels of applicants, 100%. And that's what matter everywhere, right?
Exactly. And then Darcy comes back and says, and I love it. I totally, yeah, beautiful. I totally, he agrees totally, which is beautiful, guys. I love the band. I like it back and forth. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and then he puts his link in there. So, Gladstone, if you can put this is Changiz LinkedIn profile. So Changiz Sadr, right? So Changiz Sadr. If you want to, if you are navigating, if you are somebody from another part of the world that just arrived in Canada and you're looking for an opportunity here in Canada to advance your career in engineering, and you have your credentials, and he is. He's willing to help you out through his free courses. So reach out to Changiz. Very good thing. So we have 2 minutes. If you're a whistleblower, we kind of digressed a little bit, but this is good. This is a good conversation. So maybe Gladstone, if you can put let's start with the states. This is the whistleblower National Whistleblower Center in the States, right? So if you're in the States, you can go into whistleblowers.org. And then they can help you out in terms of what to do next and how to report whistleblowing in the States. We don't have an identity or a big organization in Canada like this. We have like different places or different commissions. So there is the Ontario Securities Commission. So anything that has to do with financial fraud or companies, because it's usually financial, by the way, it's not just cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is kind of like, it's kind of a tangent, like what happened in Twitter. But most of the stuff, like I don't know what, I don't quote me in percentages, but a huge percentage of what's going on has to do with financial stuff, financial dealings and shady business, right? So one is the Ontario Securities Commission here in Ontario. They have a huge whistleblower program that you can read more and then submit your whistleblower report here. So I encourage you, if you are seeing things going on in your company, absolutely. This I also have, wow, okay, time flies. So I have two things here. Let me show you. The first one is how to protect your data. If you're a business, this is what you got to do. You have to conduct regular cybersecurity audits to make sure that your data is protected in your company. Sorry, but I don't have much time.
It's
Let's
okay.
see.
Go a minute over. It's all right. I think this is important, Dan.
Yes, this is extremely important for everybody. So the second thing, know what to do in case of a data breach, right? What are you going to do next? Do you have an incident response plan? Back up your data. This goes without saying, and then know who accesses and why. And this is kind of like the administrator and technical perspective in terms of cybersecurity. So let's things like least privileges as default. So when somebody comes into to work for your company, they should have to protect your data and the data of your customers and employees, etc. You need to give them the least amount of privileges in terms of the technical stuff as well as the administrative. Need to know basis. That means that, like if you need somebody to know more information, you give it adequately as you move along. Separation of duties, privileged accounts. So you need to, like a minimize, not minimize, but have a plan for who's going to hold privileged accounts, and then review your logs constantly. Encryption everywhere, communication, data rest, data in transit. You need to encrypt your communication pretty much everywhere, including email. And the last one, which doesn't protect but it helps, is buying cybersecurity insurance. Absolutely.
I was going to say that's like the last line. You ultimately should be protecting your network and your infrastructure first, putting all those top priorities, and then ultimately at the end, because nothing's 100% foolproof, having the cybersecurity insurance also helps protect you.
Yes. Now, if you in terms of personal data security, so I have this tab for businesses. I have this for personal data protection. So first one, stop giving away your personal information. I see so many times on Facebook, oh, look at this, my daughter's 15th birthday, blah blah, we celebrated, or we took a trip, we're on vacation in Cuba. You're giving out way too much information. You put everything on your social channels. Don't do it. It's better to keep that close to you, right? So check your mobile app permissions. Guys, I show you little Snitch, right? So right now I'm giving away data to different parts of the world. Imagine this, but 10 times more with your mobile, right? So location services on mobile, for example. Why would some apps, they ask for location services because they want to track you where you are, and the app has nothing to do with location. I mean, I understand that you're giving the privileges to Google Maps because without a map you can navigate. But imagine why does a simple game, like a game on your phone, requesting location information? That's kind of like ridiculous. You should be able to tie that down, like your permissions on your phone, delete the ads, remove apps, and delete the permissions. Review your security and privacy settings. Very important on your phone, not just on your phone, but your checking account, your bank accounts, your credit cards, your mobile applications, everywhere. Check your security and privacy settings, right? Use two-factor authentication on everything imaginable. Make sure that you use that, because if you have even if you have weak passwords, if somebody gets a hold of your password, they won't be able to get into your systems or anything that you own. And update, this is a very, very basic one, but update your computer, right? So do those pesky updates, right? Don't ignore them. Just make sure you update that and use an antivirus. And I'm not talking about a free Avast or Panda antivirus. Use a good, adequate antivirus. If you can't, just leave Defender on, because Defender does a good job at the end of the day, better than free antiviruses on your Windows machines. The last one is secure your Wi-Fi, because you never know that there might be a hacker inside of your home through your Wi-Fi and router. no, maybe no Wi-Fi, but your router, and collecting information and stealing or exfiltrating. It's called exfiltrating your data from your own nodes, right? So these are really good tips for people to secure themselves. Also, I see something that Darcy is putting on the screen. So remove all the tags from your cell phone, absolutely 100%. And then he says, Gladstone, if you can put that on as well.
Yeah. When I see the apps, I want access to my. There we go.
When I see that an app wants access to my contact list, don't install it. It's just nuts. What
Exactly.
app? Come on, But and be aware of TikTok. Yeah, look it up. Look it up, man. You'll know what I'm talking about. What would you say about online surveys? Online service. Well, it okay. So online service can track your data in terms of where you're located, right? So, for example, SurveyMonkey, and information about who you are in terms of the technical stuff, your browser, your computer, your operating system, where if you're a mobile or not mobile, they can track that stuff, even though they don't put in the fields that information. They can still track that through the cookies that are put into your
How are you receiving that survey exactly as well?
Yeah,
Like
so-
if you're going somewhere, if they're sending it to you, like there's lots of things
Yeah.
to consider. So
Yeah, if they can put one and one together and say, okay, the location and then the name of the person, and then they get your PII, right? So your personal identifiable information. So, but it's I don't know. That's a tough one, man, because I like
It
doing
is.
stuff sometimes too.
It's exactly.
All right, guys. So thank you so much.
We went 6 minutes over, but I think it was really valuable, Dan. The last bit of information. And guys, I just want to put a shout out to the people who interacted today. Really, really appreciate the comments. Love the banter. Love the comments. Love the insight. Really, really appreciate it. It's always nice to have everybody participating in the show, because it's about again, collaboration, learning and growing, and sharing information and insight. So if you're a whistleblower, don't be scared. Do what you need to do.
Yes. We're live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube every Friday at 12 o'clock. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/getcyber. And of course, go to LinkedIn and subscribe to Purple Talk. 4 articles per week on the Purple Talk. And of course, visit rhino.io if you want to know more about our services. Thank you very much. And I hope you have a fantastic weekend. See you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Shangiz.